On December 9, 2025, just before closing time in a small independent repair shop tucked behind a strip mall near a busy interstate, a silver crossover rolled slowly into my bay with its hazard lights still blinking. The driver wasn't angry, rushed, or upset. He was genuinely confused. In 2026, scenes like this are happening more than ever because modern vehicles rely heavily on software memory, adaptive logic, and sensitive electronics, so what looks like a major breakdown is often just corrupted data. And if you keep watching, you'll understand why these moments rarely mean your car is actually broken and how this knowledge can save you serious money. 9. Warning lights often signal confusion, not failure. Warning lights often feel like an emergency, especially when several turn on together, but in modern cars, they usually signal confusion, not failure. Most vehicles today run on computers, sensors, and control modules that react to data, not physical wear. Every module constantly compares live readings to stored expectations and then makes decisions based on learned behavior. If one sensor briefly sends a wrong value or voltage drops during a weak start, the system adapts and saves that change as normal. Nothing breaks, but the assumption sticks. Over weeks or months, these small adaptations pile up. Eventually, the stored data no longer matches reality and warning lights appear. The car feels unpredictable, so drivers panic, even though no part has actually failed. The system is doing exactly what it was programmed to do, just with flawed information. That's why lights can come and go or disappear on their own. Once you understand this, warning lights stop feeling like a death sentence and start feeling like a question. They are asking the system to be checked, not demanding parts be replaced. This mindset shift slows you down, helps you think clearly, and prevents rushed decisions, emotional spending, and unnecessary repairs overall. But here's the part almost no one expects, because the lights aren't the real problem at all. 8. Stored memory can mimic serious mechanical problems. Modern control modules store long-term memory to make cars smoother, cleaner, and more efficient over time. Fuel trims, idle control, throttle response, and shift timing constantly adapt based on driving habits, sensor readings, and past conditions. The problem starts when bad data enters the system. A dirty sensor, low voltage event, or short-term issue can teach the computer the wrong lesson. That memory does not clear itself. Even after the original issue is fixed, the car keeps compensating for a problem that no longer exists. This is why cars often feel worse after maintenance instead of better. A sensor gets cleaned or replaced, but the computer still behaves as if the old fault is present. Drivers then chase symptoms, replacing parts that are actually working fine. At this point, the problem is no longer mechanical, it is logical. The vehicle is responding perfectly to incorrect assumptions stored in memory. A proper reset clears those assumptions and forces the system to relearn using real, current data. When the car suddenly runs smooth again, it feels unbelievable, but nothing magical happened. The hardware was fine all along. The car was simply remembering the wrong story and acting on it with confidence alone. And once you see how long that bad memory sticks around, the next cause becomes impossible to ignore. 7. Weak batteries quietly corrupt vehicle logic. Modern drivers think a weak battery only causes slow starts, but in modern cars, it quietly affects everything. Every control module needs stable voltage to read sensors, store memory, and make decisions correctly. When voltage dips during startup or even while driving, modules can partially save data, freeze learning mid-process, or lock in wrong reference values. The car often does not see this as a failure. It keeps running, just with corrupted logic. Weeks or months later, odd symptoms appear. Shifts feel harsh. Idle hunts up and down. Warning lights flicker randomly. Fuel economy drops without explanation. Almost no one connects these problems back to a battery event that already passed. Shops usually test sensors, throttle bodies, or transmission parts because those are visible and measurable. The real cause stays hidden. A proper battery disconnect reset, done slowly and completely, clears that corrupted memory and forces every module to restart fresh. When the car suddenly drives normally again, drivers are shocked because the fix feels too easy, but nothing mechanical was wrong. Unstable power quietly confused the system long before symptoms ever appeared. This is why battery health matters more than most drivers ever realize today in modern cars. This is where most drivers get blindsided because the damage often starts somewhere you'd never think to look. 6. Over-adaptation slowly degrades drive quality. Modern vehicles constantly learn how you drive and quietly adjust themselves every day. Gentle driving softens shifts and dulls throttle response. Aggressive acceleration sharpens shifts and makes the engine feel jumpy. Short trips change fuel calculations and idle behavior. These adaptations help in the short term, but over months and years they stack together. The car slowly drifts away from its original baseline. Nothing fails suddenly or dramatically. Instead, the vehicle starts feeling inconsistent and hard to describe. Fuel economy slowly drops, shifts feel delayed one day and harsh the next. Throttle response feels lazy, then overly sensitive. Drivers often say, "The car just feels off," and that description is accurate. This drift happens so gradually that it feels normal and unavoidable. A proper reset clears these accumulated assumptions and gives the system a clean slate again. But the relearn phase matters more than most people realize. Calm driving, stable battery voltage, clean sensors, and steady cruising are essential after a reset. Flooring the throttle immediately teaches the system panic instead of balance. Controlled conditions rebuild a healthy baseline. Done correctly, the car does not feel new or faster. It feels smooth, predictable, and normal again for everyday driving comfort. And if that slow decline sounds familiar, what comes next explains why resets don't all work the same way. 5. Targeted module resets solve specific problems. Not every problem requires resetting the entire vehicle at once. Modern cars allow individual control modules to be reinitialized on their own. A transmission that shifts harshly after service often only needs its transmission control module reset. A frozen infotainment screen usually responds to a simple reboot. Random electrical behavior often comes from a confused body control module. These procedures are not tricks, hacks, or shortcuts. Engineers design systems expecting resets under specific conditions. What surprises most drivers is how often targeted resets fix problems that looked expensive minutes earlier. When a reset works, it confirms the issue was data-related, not mechanical damage. When it does not work, that result is just as useful. It tells you the problem is real and deserves deeper diagnosis. Instead of guessing or replacing parts blindly, you isolate the system causing the symptom. This saves time, money, and stress. It also gives owners confidence in control. Targeted resets turn fear into information. They stop the repair spiral before it starts. Used correctly, they help you understand whether your car needs attention or simply needs to relearn properly again before expensive repairs are approved without clear evidence or understanding by calm, informed, confident owners. Now, this is where people usually make things worse without realizing it. If this is already revealing mistakes you didn't know you were making, subscribe now, because every week I break down what modern cars actually need versus what drivers are told to pay for. 4. Resets are diagnostic filters, not repairs. A reset does not fix broken parts, and that detail is extremely important to understand. What a reset actually does is remove incorrect assumptions stored inside the car's computers. If a reset makes a symptom disappear, you have learned something valuable. You have proven the problem was based on logic, data, or memory, not physical damage. If the symptom comes back quickly, that result is just as useful because it confirms a real mechanical or electrical fault exists. Either outcome gives you clarity. This is why resets should be treated as diagnostic filters, not magical fixes. They help separate ghost problems from real ones. Most drivers react emotionally to warning lights and rush toward expensive repairs without testing this step first. Professionals think differently. They test, observe, and confirm before replacing parts. A reset costs nothing but time, yet it can prevent hundreds or even thousands in unnecessary spending. More importantly, it changes how you approach every future problem. Instead of fear, you gain confidence. Instead of guessing, you gather information. Once you understand resets this way, warning lights stop controlling your emotions. They become signals to investigate calmly, logically, and deliberately. That shift alone saves money repeatedly over the life of the vehicle and keeps drivers from paying for repairs they never actually needed in the first place. Once you understand this difference, the next truth about repairs starts to feel uncomfortable. 3. The repair industry rarely starts with resets. Resets do not generate impressive invoices, and that reality shapes how repairs are approached. There are no parts to sell, no long labor hours to bill, and no warranty claims to file. The automotive repair industry is built around replacement, not correction. That does not mean mechanics are dishonest, but it does mean incentives are misaligned. A 5-minute reset that solves a problem does not fit a system designed for billable work. Because of this, diagnostics often point toward parts, sensors, modules, or assemblies, since those justify cost. Many drivers never hear about resets until after they have already spent money they did not need to spend. The owner benefits most from understanding resets, not the shop. When you know this option exists, you ask better questions and slow the process down. You stop being rushed into decisions driven by fear. Instead, you ask for confirmation, testing, and evidence. That alone changes the power balance. Knowledge does not make you confrontational, it makes you prepared. And prepared owners rarely overpay for problems that were never truly mechanical in the first place at all. And this leads to the most expensive mistake drivers make without ever noticing it. 2. Fear is the most expensive vehicle problem. Fear costs more money than broken parts ever will. Warning lights trigger anxiety, especially when they appear suddenly or in groups. Anxiety leads to rush decisions. Rush decisions lead to unnecessary repairs. This pattern repeats every day for drivers who do not understand how modern vehicles actually fail. Once you learn that most problems start as data issues, fear begins to lose its power. A warning light becomes information, not a verdict. A repair quote becomes a discussion, not a command. You stop assuming the worst and start verifying the truth. This mindset shift is more valuable than any single reset procedure because it protects you again and again. Every strange noise, light, or behavior becomes something to evaluate logically instead of emotionally. You pause instead of panicking. You test instead of guessing. Over time, this saves far more money than any single avoided repair. Confidence changes outcomes. Calm decisions prevent waste. When fear is removed from the equation, drivers make better choices, ask smarter questions, and avoid being pushed into repairs that sound urgent but are not truly necessary in reality. Which brings us to the one step that quietly decides whether you save money or waste it. 1. Reset, observe, then decide. Before authorizing any repair, reset the system, observe how the car behaves, and then decide what to do next. This simple order changes everything. If the problem disappears, you avoided unnecessary spending and stress. If the problem returns, you gained clarity and direction instead of confusion. Modern vehicles reward informed owners. The more you understand how data drives behavior, the less control panic has over your wallet. Cars today are not broken nearly as often as drivers are led to believe. They are frequently confused, misinformed, or operating on outdated assumptions. Once you understand this process, warning lights lose their power. They stop feeling like threats and start feeling like signals. You become proactive instead of reactive. You make decisions based on evidence instead of fear. This approach does not eliminate real repairs, but it ensures that when you do spend money, it is actually justified. Reset,
Observe, then decide. That mindset alone will save you money, frustration, and regret over the lifetime of your vehicle. Decisions become easier. Click any of these videos on your screen and I'll see you in a moment.